Hello, hello, we are finally here. After so many weeks of me wanting to do this, I can't believe that I'm finally doing it. First of all, hello and welcome. Please let me know how does the audio sound and if there are any problems with the streams. I'll be honest, I watched tutorials all week long and I thought that I have a pretty good idea at how to do this. But apparently not, because when I tried to set this up, I had a lot of problems. Because apparently I was watching how to set up streams for Twitch, because I thought they are the same. Well, they are not. And streaming on YouTube is a tad more complicated. Low sound from the game or my voice? I'll try to fix any issues, but I can't promise that I'll manage to. Because, trust me, the last hour, I even thought that I will have to cancel the stream at one point. Because I watched a tutorial about how to start streaming without a stream key, but apparently it didn't work, and then I needed to do it with a stream key. Anyway, it was very complicated. But let's see. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do today. I wanted to do some dailies, do my Abyss run until some people start showing up, but the problem is that I'm in Nirvana right now and it's shield weather, it's a lot of shielded mobs, and I honestly don't want to mold on stream. I will probably do this later today. So I thought about doing a small account showcase, because I never did that. After that we will do a small recap of chapter 35 act 1, and I will try to answer some of your questions. How does that sound? Okay. I see that we have 34 people here. Honestly, I did not expect many people to show up. I thought maybe 10. Sounds good. Okay. So, let's start with the... Let me claim this first, actually. Yeah, I haven't got to do my dailies today. Love your content, keep up the great work. Thank you. I try my best, and I'm happy that I could help you. Just some small maintenance. Are you okay, Homolabs? You sound very nervous. Well, I am nervous too. I never streamed in front of people. I don't have any public speaking experience, so of course I am nervous. But you know, with a bit of practice, I hope that it will go away. Does it really take you weeks to edit a video? Yes, it does. it usually takes me about a week to write the script, then a day to record and edit the sound, and about a week and a half to edit the video. You deserve more subs, thank you, but honestly, you have to look at this realistically. Honkai is not a very popular game, right? It's not Genshin level of popular. So even if the quality of the content I put out there is on the same level as some creators that have a lot more subscribers, due to me covering a niche game, I will not reach that numbers. It's impossible. Hello, Wind Valley, hello, happy weekend. Is this your first stream? Yes, it is. But for Honkai, I think yesterday I hit 13k subscribers. I think that's very, very good. I'm very content with where I am now. So yeah, let's start the account showcase. Okay, Valkyries. As you can see, I pretty much have every single Valkyrie in the game, except for Vilvi. Now, I don't hate Vilvi or have anything against her, but I happened to go through a rough time financially when she came out, and I just couldn't get her. But I will eventually, hopefully, get her one day. Though to be fair, I don't really like her playstyle. Yeah. As you can see, a couple of triple S's. I have Asuka. Double S. I can technically use it. Do you have Himeko bikini outfit? No. No, I'm not that old of a player. Let me show you login. I have 783 days on Hyperion, and I started almost 3 years ago in 2020. Fun fact, this is not my first account. I started a couple of months earlier, but I lost my first account, and this is my second account. By the way, is that strange or just me? The bridge BGM sounds familiar to Star Rail style soundtrack. I mean, yes, they both go with this space theme, so I would assume there are similarities. Equipment, weapons. I have the majority of signature weapons for the, let's say, all DPSs and some of the supports. Stigmata. Am I going too fast? Homolabs, will you be covering Star Rail as well? Yes, I'm actually playing the beta right now and record almost every bit of lore I can find, and I plan to do Star Rail content when it comes out. And we might even do some streams before Star Rail comes out and learn about the lore, because I still don't know the lore of Star Rail very well, and if I'll spend time reading and learning about it, why not do this on stream and learn together? I couldn't get into the game first time trying. Yeah, me neither. I quit a couple of times. Is there any significance between Kiana living on a train versus Star Astral Express? I think you could draw a parallel between two, but that train more so is a reference to Reborn and their start, their first animation. That's where the journey started. But yeah, you could totally see it as a reference to Star Rail. Time to answer the hardest questions. Eons, Honkai, Eons greater than Honkai, or Honkai lower than Eons? CN community at war on this, lol. No, I think that Eons are greater than Honkai, but we'll have to see. Wait, there's a space limit for Stigmata? Yes, apparently it is. And when you hit it, it won't let you summon on the banner, and it makes you delete a few. But yes, there is a space limit for Stigmata. But yeah, I have most of my DPSs fully geared, and most of the supports, but not all of them. For example, I don't have Pardo's gear, I don't have Aichan's gear. And I know what people want to see the most, how much I spent on the game. Do you remember the higher entity mentioned on chapter 35, act 1? The higher entity, you mean the player? Does anyone know who Aichan is in the main story? Yes, she is the self-insert of... She's born from as a plot device to self-insert the player, but she has her own lore. I am working on a video about that. It will not be the next one, but sometimes in the future. Chat very small on the screen. Okay, let me... I don't think I can do this right now, but I will make it bigger for the next stream. But I can understand you, so thanks. Cool. What's the difference between Lambda and Aichan? Okay, you know that Aichan has her own lore, with her being from the previous era, an AI on Hyperion, and all that stuff. It's very complicated to explain, that's why I want to make a video about that, because I need to collect my thoughts and put it out in a organized manner. Basically, Lambda is Aichan, but Aichan is not necessarily Lambda. Lambda serves more as a self-insert from the developers and from the players, and the whole time crystal thingy that I will explain later. Do you know the higher being that invited Sue to play Go in the end of the manga second key? No, we don't know who that is. It's a neon, maybe, it's not a neon. It's some higher dimensional being that governs the whole imaginary tree, maybe, we do not know. You're the one who encouraged me to play Honkai. Well, that's nice to hear. Okay, so as you can see, I consider myself a dolphin, small whale, in the sense that I usually go for S rank and full gear for every important DPS character. For supports, sometimes I go for full gear, but if they have an alternative version of their gear that can work almost as good as their signature gear, I won't go. In the most simplest terms, Aichan is just the AI of the ship Hyperion, while Lambda is an ascended version of her that was born from the time shenanigans related to us in the 11th dimension. Yes. Do you think Mobius is the snake that talked to Cele? You mean in the Sea of Quanta? No, that was Kevin. It was explained by Fu Hua in chapter 34 that that was one of the forms that he can take through Project Chimera. It's one of his many forms. AI in the Taishan in the previous era is actually alive but turned into an AI. Yes. But Mobius is a snake. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. Okay, so this is pretty much my account. I see we have 65 people. Oh my god. Do we never see Snake Kevin? After that moment, no. What do you think is going to happen to Grisio now? That's a complicated question. I think she will come back in part 2. You know that I made a whole theory about her being the primordial one? Well, I don't think she is. But I think that the idea of she being the primordial one is very interesting. That's why I made that video. I don't think we will see her in Genshin, I don't think we will see her in Star Rail, but I think that we will see her in part 2. Which server do you play? On EU. What exactly is Project Chimera? Basically, think of the Mantis surgeries, right? Where they take a human and combine its genes with a Honkai beast. Well, Project Chimera is that, but on crack. Basically, they took a lot of Honkai beasts and put them inside Kevin. That is why it's called Chimera, because it's an amalgamation of multiple Honkai beasts. Who is your favorite Valkyrie to play? Right now, I think that it's not a single Valkyrie, it's the trio, the Hersher trio. Honestly, when you play all three of them inside one team, it's the most fun I had with the game in a while. Home starts Lord discussion chat, ask the hardest questions. You're like an encyclopedia of Honkai. I love your videos, they're very interesting to watch. Thank you. Hello, Yokin. Since the main story ends in 6 years according to the CEO, what does it mean for Honkai Impact story to end? I don't think it will end in 6 years. A lot of people, and I mentioned that in my Honkai is not ending video, took that message from that way literally. But that was more like, let's do 6 more years. He wasn't committing to anything. You know, I don't know, when it's someone's birthday and you tell them, hey, happy 20th anniversary, I wish you 20 more. He didn't confirm 6 more years, but he did confirm 3 more years in a recent developer discussion. And those are confirmed 3 more years. But I don't think that they will end the game if the game makes money. Recently GGZ had its 9th anniversary and they are also ending one of their stories, I think it's the Reborn storyline, and that way said that they will not end the game, they will continue during that live stream. So as long as the game has players, they will continue updating it. It will never end. Okay. There's a lot of questions. Let me sort them through a bit. What happened to the cell at the end of Act 1? Because I don't think nothing happened to her. She went with Aichan to rescue Teresa. Will you upload this live to YouTube afterward? Yes, I plan to let this VOD stay. To the countless Samsara, human had found the cocoon whereabouts for the first time. Those passive existence will look up. from a higher dimension who... Yeah, I remember that line. I think that line refers to us, the players, because we are technically, canonically, 11th dimensional beings in the Honkai universe, and that's that's what I want to expand upon in my future video. Homolabs, hello from Philippines. Hello JP Garcia. The new bridge music slaps, yes. In a similar state where they keep the game alive because people play the game. Yeah, well, they, unlike other companies, Hoyoverse really has an attachment to their games, because basically each game is a stepping stone for them that brought them higher and higher and allowed them to be where they are today. So of course they are attached to them and they want to keep them alive as long as possible. And it's nice to see that, because you have a guarantee with Hoyoverse games. You know that if you start one, the devs won't abandon the game unless there are major issues, like how we had with GGZ Global, where there were barely any players and the translations were abysmal. What are your thoughts on Zenless Zone Zero and Tears of Themis in relation to the Honkai universe? To be fair, I think that Tears of Themis might be just a regular world on the imaginary tree that isn't affected by any external force like the Honkai or the Eons. And Zenless, I have no idea. We'll have to see. We'll have to find out more and see. I don't know. Could you maybe do a video about the Captain verse? It's bloody impossible to follow what's happening there at this point. The problem with Captain verse is that it's way too big, and the amount of research that needs to be done to be presented in a cohesive video would take me a lot of time, which I don't really have now because I have other video ideas that I want to bring out faster. So I want to, but I don't know when I'll be able to do that. Hello Nox, okay. There's so many questions. Am I still confused on what was who was the guy that fell from the sky that day? That was the Cocoon of Finality, from what I understood. What makes a Hersher a Hersher? It is their core, their authority, a natural stigmata, or something entirely else. It's not the authority, because we know Ado had the authority of binding and he was not considered the Hersher of binding. Same as now Kevin has the authority of finality, but he is not the Hersher of finality. So I would say what makes a Hersher is technically the Hersher core. Hello from Poland, how is your day going? And also thank you for your videos, they help me a lot in understanding the lore of Honkai. Hello Admiral, thank you. My day has been pretty busy. Thoughts on the new bridge? It's awesome. The only issue with this bridge is that they are going to take it out after 2 weeks. And to be honest, I wouldn't want it to be permanent, because the fact that it's only 2 weeks makes it special, but at the same time, I would love to have it, to use it whenever I want. We're making a transcription of stuff on Hoyodex. Hopefully we'll be able to do the Captain verse stuff soon. That should make the life easier researching. Yeah. There are so many events. Okay. We'll be we've streamed for a half an hour already, so I think we can start with the recap of the chapter. Okay. Give me 1 second. bring this up. Okay, so I want to ask you, because would you prefer for me to go and search for a video on YouTube of the act, and as we talk have that video playing on the background to highlight some moments, or it's okay to leave it on the bridge and we talk as we go? Because I don't really know how to do it. I can do both. It depends on you how you prefer it. Yeah, I think that should be okay. Both is fine. Hello, this is just my own opinion. I think that the way Kiana gets finality is bad and doesn't make sense. I still don't get how she got the power from that Hersher, especially the Hersher she never faced off. Okay, I can see where you're coming from, because I've seen this criticism brought up plenty of times, and I think it's valid. But if you pay attention to the story, it kind of makes sense. I mean, it made sense for me. As to how she gets the other authorities is through the authority of origin at first, because apparently the authority of origin is to bring all the other Hersher authorities together. That's why after May became the Hersher of origin, all the Hersher authorities started to go towards her. But as they were doing that, the Cocoon of Finality recognized Kiana as the Hersher of Finality and basically gave them to her. So she... You know that initially the plan was to make her an artificial Hersher of Finality. Artificial in the sense that, like Kevin, they would take the power, it's not given to them. But that's not the case anymore. The Cocoon gives the power to Kiana, so she is the natural Hersher of Finality in this case. Okay, I see that some people would like to have the video. Okay. I think this should do. By the way, if you want to replay some of the chapters, especially the chapters that are in open world and you cannot replay them, I truly recommend this channel, Ira DLC. They are a very good archive for any kind of Honkai related content, from events to web events to stories, and they really saved my skin when I was researching the open world chapters that I couldn't replay in the game. I actually expected Finality to be a threat, or at least look like a threat. Kiana looks too good for Finality. I mean, I can see these expectations because they portrayed Finality so menacing in the previous era, and at some point I expected something similar, but with the recent story developments, it became quite clear that that's not the case, and Honkai is not really a story about fights and power scale, and at least not in the recent years. But we will we will get into that more later. Will you make a recap video on the open world auto chapters? I forgot the chapters number. At some point, yes. I would actually love to make a recap for all of part 1. But I don't know when I'll have the time to do that. But it's on my to-do list. I had a good hunch based on your accent, but now I know for sure where you are from. Well, it's no secret, you can ask me. I'm from Eastern Europe, from Romania. And yes, probably on stream my accent is a lot stronger because it's much easier to record. Then I always record multiple takes. And use the ones that sound the best, and after that I edit them. So I imagine now you hear my raw accent. Do Honkai characters see the similarities between May and May or Bronya and Prometheus? Honestly, in the past I would have said no, but after the reveal from chapter 33 with the whole samsara, I think they see them, but they realize that they're different people, so comparing them has no value. I mean, Kevin probably realizes that May is Dr. May's reincarnation in this era, but at the same time she's not Dr. May. She's May, she's a different person, so it doesn't make sense bringing that up. Appreciate all your hard work, Homo. You're genuinely awesome. All your videos are just so well made and just amazing. Hope you have a great day and much success onwards. Thank you. Thank you. I wish you the same. What kind of internet do you have there? Actually, surprisingly, Romania has one of the fastest internet speed in the whole Europe. I was surprised when I found that out. And apparently, I'm not sure if this is true, but someone told me that this is because we adopted the internet so late, and that when we made our infrastructure, it was a more modern version of the already implemented infrastructure for the internet around the world. Yeah, I love your accent. It's very pleasant to hear. It feels like a narrator reading a story. Thank you. Is the cocoon of finality sentient? I would say yes. How can Brone be the reincarnation of an AI? I don't know. I think it's more so, I would say it's a symbolic representation, in Bronia's case, at least. Don't think too much about it. Okay, so let's start with the story recap. So we have the first scene, the slap, as I like to call it. And this is very interesting because it starts with Prometheus relating the events that happened in chapter 32 with the bubble universe to Kevin. And Kevin is very stoic, right? He has this, we have this whole discourse about humanity and how Kevin discarded that humanity, and even Prometheus as an AI is more human than him. And after that, he adds that they still have the freedom to choose their fate or to fight their fate, but Kevin resigned. He embraced his fate and chose to discard this human privilege of fighting fate. And there are a lot of moral dilemmas here. First, is Kevin truly wrong? Because I'll be honest, looking from the thing from his perspective, I can see why it's like that. Because in my opinion, Kevin is the only one that has a solid plan. One of the small complaints I have about this arc from a story writing perspective is that at least the main characters or protagonists, AE and Shixel, they just winged it. They at no moment they had a fully prepared plan. They just winged it based on the circumstances, and it worked out. And I also understand that Project Stigma happened very abruptly, and they maybe didn't have time to prepare. But I think that Hare and Prometheus are a bit too harsh on Kevin in this moment. Prometheus is a Chad in this scene. Yes, yes it is. I'll be honest, I did not expect that slap. Isn't winging it just basically what Project Ember was going on to be about anyway? Yes, yes it is. Kevin is wrong. After their era was destroyed, they had all the cards to defeat Finality in round 2, but he, nor the Flame Chaser used to, they just sat there and did nothing. In round 2, you say round 2, you refer, you talk about the previous era. As a new player, I feel like only play main story chapters without reading comics. Really hard to understand the game. I don't think it's hard to understand the game. I think it's demanding. I think it's a very demanding game that requires you to go to a lot of external materials and to pay close attention to what's happening. I wouldn't call it that hard to understand, but very demanding. And you can see that as a negative. I can totally agree. It depends on perspectives. I, for one, really like complicated stories, and the fact that it's multimedia with manga, visual novels. But that's me. I can totally see why other people don't like that aspect of the game. Yeah, I felt sorry for Kevin in this scene. To be honest, on latest chapters I never read the manga. I mean, you can play the game and understand most of it without the manga, but I think the manga really elevates the quality of the story. I mean, some arcs for me without the manga would have been a 6 or 7, but with the added context from the manga, it's an 8 or even a 9. And I think the best example is the Sea of Quanta arc, where if you play the game, you have no idea what's happening with Cele, why is she thrown in the story all of a sudden. But if you read the Azure Waters, it makes a lot more sense, and it hits you way harder. Homo, I love your videos. I can't wait for the one on hair and ideas. Yeah, I still haven't, thank you, but I still haven't started that video. The next video will be about Project Stigma. Will be the recap for chapter 34, which I hopefully finish by next week. Okay, so moving on. We have the Mount Taishan operation. So here we see how they started to reclaim some more spaces, right? And using Sushang's status as a Stigma awakened, they can pull the space back together. Because if you remember in chapter, I think 33, when this is the corrupted space, and Sushang, just by walking there, is enough to put back the space together. Because in chapter 33, Schrödinger explained the difference between Hershers and Stigma awakened, and how Hershers basically push some things to the extreme, basically causing destruction, and Stigma awakened pulling them together. Wait, it's the same concept with the space here. Nobody betrayed Kevin. He's the one that betrayed everyone. He became the very thing he swore to destroy. that's a very complicated topic, because if you look at Su, if you look at Fu Hua, if you look at the people from the previous era that are alive today, they don't see what Kevin did as a betrayal. You can see that they still respect them, they still admire him. Basically, Kevin was forced to take this path. I don't think he's in the wrong with what he does, but that doesn't mean that the main cast is wrong either. It's not a black and white situation. I think you can be wrong from multiple factions, can be right at the same time. It just depends on the perspective you choose to look at things. So Kevin will have to hold on the authority of finality until the end of time, because of we'll get there when we will recap. I have some notes on that. I want to expand more on that topic. Okay, and another very interesting thing in this scene is Susanna. Why is she a B rank Valkyrie when she can destroy imaginary constructs at the same speed as Rita and Sushang? Just why? Make her an S rank already. But no, this was very funny to see, and this, in a way, can be seen as a foreshadowing for what's to come. I'm not gonna spoil who the new Valkyrie is, but it's a funny thing. And the last important thing from this scene is when they realize that even though they can reclaim the space, and they did reclaim a bunch of space from the earth, the people that are trapped in the dreams do not come back. And this presents a whole new issue for them, because now they have to find a solution for bringing the people back, because reclaiming the earth without the people, it has no meaning. I mean, I don't really see why Rita is S rank. Hey, she deserves it, okay? Okay, let's move on. Then we have May's return with the authority of origin. And nothing much happens here. Let's go to the plan, because this is very interesting. Because we learned some things in this scene. First, we learned that the cocoon of finality is deep inside the aggregation of dreams, which is the spiritual Adam. And that apparently people reject reality for the dream world, because why not? Because it's much better there. And to be honest, if I were trapped in a dream, most likely I would also reject reality. But they need to come up with a plan to wake people up, basically. So AE proposes to basically blast them with energy weapons and destroy their dreams, giving them depression in the process. And of course, Teresa and the others don't really like this plan. So Teresa has this idea to shake up the dreams by making the people realize that they are inside a dream. And what this means is all about their sense of individuality. Because the collective dream is basically complacence, right? You have a bunch of people in different dreams that are complacent there. You have a dream where you have kids playing. You have a dream with a bunch of depressed people. You have a dream with elderly people on the verge of death. So these dreams are basically about being complacent. So they need to using the analogies from this chapter, they need to give them wings to fly, to want more, to awaken this sense of individuality in them. So they basically want to transform the dream from a paradise to a shackle from people. So they will want to live on their own. But the only backdrop for this plan is that is very random and the outcome is beyond their control. And Einstein even argues that this will also serve as a test for humanity, and if people are unable to overcome this hurdle, they are not worth being saved and continue living. But at the same time, she puts an emphasis on the fact that she believes in humanity, she believes in Kiana, and in the beautiful world that she fights for. Homolaf, do you know what happened at the end of part 1? At the end of part 1 of chapter 35, basically Kiana got the authority of Finality and now they're on the way to fight Kevin. Or if you're referring to the whole Ai-chan sequence, I'm still not sure what it is. I think it was meant as a story that parallels the journey the developers had with making Honkai Impact Third. I'm still not sure on that. Because I only played these chapters once, right? So, and revisited it to take some notes. So I wouldn't say that I understand everything. A lot of things are still over my head, and I didn't have the time to arrange my thoughts and arrange the ideas and learn everything. So you'll have to excuse me, but there might be some questions that even I won't be able to answer. Do you think we will ever get fake Herschers like pseudo ones? No, I think that the concept of pseudo Herschers was abandoned, and to be honest, I prefer it that way, because it was making things needlessly more complicated. Okay. Then after this, they discuss the plan, and we'll go. Oh, okay. I know this is a hot take, and a lot of people will not agree with me, but one of my favorite parts of this chapter was this discussion, this back and forth between Kevin and the philosopher. And this brings us to the question, why do birds fly? Knowing what we know from the recent chapters, what are your views on the bill? Oh, I wanted to talk about them on the Bill Franklin dollar bill from the AAVN. Who do you think he was referring to when talking to Edison? I honestly have to reread the visual novel because I forgot most of the interaction between Edison and the Bill Franklin dollar bill. But basically, what happens there, for those who haven't read, suddenly a dollar bill starts talking. With Edison, and people theorize that is basically a higher dimensional being that projected itself on that dollar bill and was able to talk with Edison. I'm not sure yet. I don't want to say anything because, as I said, I have this video in the works where I want to tackle all this meta stuff about Honkai and how higher dimensions works, and I still need to do more research on that. And after I collect my thoughts, I will try to expand more on that. But for now, I still don't know. Do you think we will? Do you think they will show us what Callan did after being saved? I have no idea. I mean, they could do that in part 2, but we'll have to see. I honestly don't think so, but you never know. This part is a bit strange for me because these talks should also include Sue, because Sue surely loves this kind of philosophical conversation. Yes, but basically at this point you can see Sue having his own philosophical conversation probably in the background. Because at this point they were just walking through this new era and basically guiding the new civilization. So, this is very interesting because this talk with the philosopher, it's not that much about the philosophy itself, but it's more of a reflection of Kevin's character and Kevin's state of mind over the years. The philosopher asks, why do birds fly? Well, birds are born to fly, just like we are born with many instincts. He says that they are a gift from the creator, because of course in this age many still believed in gods. And he argues that every gift we're born with is a right, and humans have the ability to give up on their rights, but birds, they never consciously, at least, choose to give up on flying, which reflects again Kevin now, who on his own volition gave up on fighting destiny and embraced Project Stigma. So this is the first part. After this, I think Kevin goes through different dreams, yes, to observe them. Is Kalpas not from Earth? No. I will say this from someone who played the English version of the game, because the English localization never confirms this fact, more so implies it very much. But from my understanding, the CN localization outright calls him an alien. And it was something lost in translation for us. But yeah, I'm 99% sure that yes, he is an alien. Okay. And I really like this moment for Kevin, because it talks a lot, and I think this is the devs taking the perspective of the players, because it's very interesting when the narrator goes and says some thought that would be the best for him, since he suffered enough and deserved to be at rest and free of his loneliness, while other people thought that he will finally be able to lay low and for his this is after Project Stigma is done. Some thought that he will finally be able to lay down and live a peaceful life, right? While others thought that he could even become a part of the new era society. And this is very reflective of the discussions that the community had during this arc and earlier when it started, because everybody was talking, oh, what will happen to Kevin? Will he die? Will he survive and live in the new era? And it's very sad to see that from his perspective there is no future. From the moment the Project Stigma started, he gave up on every possible future to hold the authority of Finality, right? I wonder why Veliona never talks about previous era, nor does she seem to hold a grudge against Kevin since he was the one who killed her back then. I don't think that Veliona has anything to do with the previous era, in the sense that she is a form that was born from Cele Stigmata, when Cele needed protection, right? Sure, she looks like the Hersher of Death from the previous era, but her stigmata manifested as a natural stigmata in this era. And this is a comparison that I'm partially at fault at, because I didn't clarify in my stigmata video, because I said that Cele has the stigma of Hersher of Death from the previous era. But the same stigma right now awakened as a natural stigmata. And yes, it served as the Hersher of that stigmata in the previous era, but right now it does not. And a lot of people like to associate Cele with the Hersher of Death because of that fact, and I see why, but I don't think that Veliona is the Hersher of Death from the previous era. She's just a form born from Cele stigma, in the same way as Hair is a form born from Cecilia stigma. I'm still not sure what happened to Cosma. I thought that he died in the battle with the final Hersher, but after seeing him in the background of the Kevin talking to the philosopher, I'm confused. That's not Cosma. Cosma died. If we go back, we don't have to go back. We will go here. This is not Cosma. This is just a random dude that Sue is talking to. Cosma died in the previous era. Alright, so we are back at the philosopher, and what I like about this scene in particular is shows that even a dumb Kaslana as Kevin, after living so much, his mind and thinking developed to a point where he could rival the greatest philosophers. And this shows... okay, let's start from the beginning. A lot of stories don't know how to handle characters that live for a very long period of time. And I'm talking about hundreds, thousands of years, a period of time that our human comprehension cannot make sense of. So they basically make them like any normal human. But truthfully speaking, if somebody would live as much as Kevin did, he wouldn't act as a normal human being that we know today. And I like that they somehow showcase this change, because in the previous era, Kevin always was shown as this person that, sure, he was cold, but he wasn't the brightest, right? He didn't understand the complicated concepts that Dr. May put forth, and he was just there along for the ride. But I like very much the fact that they showcased the fact here that after so many years, his brain he's smarter than any living human being on this earth due to his experience. And that's a very nice touch. In this scene, it is said that Kevin have finality for thousands of years. No, I know what you're talking about. I think that's I don't know exactly what they're referring to. I think that's something lost in translation there. Because he did not have the finality at this point. So the wary philosopher in this scene is Sue? No, Sue is just in the background. We just see him, but we do not hear him. The whole shot is from the point of view of the wary philosopher. He's a man that is holding a speech, and Kevin listens to him. Okay, so the philosopher argues that the philosopher says that character is destiny, which is a quote we've seen a couple of times here and there, especially through the Elysium Everlasting arc. But Kevin comes and says that if destiny, he says that destiny cannot be bad or good, but character can. To which the philosopher responds that to which the philosopher responds that every ideal must temper other ideals in order to be realized. And brings up the concept of hero, which is again very, very fitting of Kevin's character. And he says that people who trample upon other people's ideals are heroes, while the rest are ordinary people. And Kevin doesn't seem very impressed with the judgment of the philosopher. But after that, he adds that there's a second kind of hero, and those are the heroes that wish for someone to come and trample their ideals. And this is again reflective of his state of mind right now, because he wants to be the kind of hero who gives others every opportunity to come and stop him, right? That's why we see him set himself as a cornerstone for humanity to overcome. It's because they have to beat him. The only way they can have a future without Honkai ahead is if they trample upon Kevin's ideals. When Kevin talks about an old friend who explained the concept of Plato's cave, was he talking about Plato or Dr. May? Yeah, that was about the conversation with Mobius. Okay, so after this we have this tombstone scene, and I think after that, yes, we are back at the philosopher. And this is when he asks the philosopher if he found an answer to the question, why do birds fly? And the philosopher says that because they wish to fly, right? To which Kevin adds that he has a similar wish. He wishes to transcend childhood, meaning that he wishes to basically he wishes for the evolution of human civilization past the Honkai, right? But he wishes this because, he wants to do this because he needs to, not because he wishes to. So he replies that birds fly because they must, reflecting on his own journey, not because they wish to, because at the same time, he flies because he must be flying, not because he wishes to be flying. And to this, the old philosopher replies with the legend of Icarus, saying that some people fly just to fall down. Which again reflects the current Kevin, not the Kevin at that time who wishes for somebody to come and knock him down from the air, because Icarus used his death as a marking for future generations to try and surpass him, to be better, to push humanity closer to the sun. He was like a martyr, right? So why do birds fly? Because they saw other birds trying to reach the sky, yet they fell to the ground and died. Because they saw other birds make similar attempts to fly higher and higher. That's why this that's what this philosophy is all about. Why do we do certain things? Because we see others do it and we wish to succeed. We wish to be better. We wish to reach higher. We wish to reach higher than them. I look at this again. It is said it's been around 3,000 years since Kevin harnessed the power of finality in this scene. Yes, I know. That's why I said that they must have translated that line wrong, because it makes no sense. I never really understood but what happened to Sue. He basically fell to the bottom of the Sea of Quanta and technically died, but his consciousness ascended to a higher plane where he met a higher being that is, from the discussion it had with Sue, it is implied that it's higher than the Honkai, and they basically have a game of Go, and that higher being promised so that if he wins, he will basically answer his questions. This part kind of reminds me of Genshin's story about the birds, right? I was thinking about that. It is very similar with the storybook from Amber we get in Mondstadt about the birds wishing to fly and growing wings. Okay, and after this, Kevin continues to go through dreams. And we move to Teresa's perspective. And we see, I mean, the first dream with the kids, nothing much happens here. But the second and third dream are much more interesting. Because in this second dream, what is this dream about? It's about depressed people, right? It's about people that basically gave up living. And we have this woman that argues that even if this is a dream, why must she wake up? Why would they come and deprive her from having the right to dream? Because basically they gave up on reality and choose to hide in their own worlds. And Teresa it's very interesting because we get more about Teresa's character, and I really like that because Teresa is a character that's not very explored in the story. And she recalls that she was once in a similar state of mind, right? After she was created, she felt numb and unable to interact with the other people, and she could only live inside her world. But that changed after she met Cecilia. And she recalls Cecilia's words, who said that the more people fail to obtain happiness, the more they lose their will to move forward. And Teresa adds that all they need is an opportunity, right? A story, a game, a movie, something that can inspire them to move forward. And I think this reflects the intentions that the developers have with this game, right? It's a bit meta, because especially if you watch the documentary they put out right after the cinematic came out in CN. I'm sure that they will post it on Global 2 after chapter 35 will be out. You can see that this is what the developers want Honkai Impact to be, right? A story that can move people, a story that can inspire them and allow them to overcome the struggles of reality and move forward. And I thought that this was a really, really nice moment. By the way, at this point, isn't it confirmed that the Honkai is actually an extraterrestrial entity that somehow ended up in Earth? Yes, it's confirmed. Okay, and we have the last dream. This was an interesting one. Okay, so here we have the owner of this dream, right, who is an old man who is bedridden for years. He is severely ill and expected to die anytime soon. So the old man tells them that this dream is the only thing he has left. But even so, he asks them if they are willing to take it away from him. And of course, there's no future for him in reality, right? And the only way he could continue existing is in this dream. And while talking to this man, they stumble across Rosa and Lilia, who were apparently stuck in this dream together. After that, he prepares to wake up, basically, and gives the whole speech that even if he will die, he already lived for more than 8 years, so he already experienced everything that life has to offer. So he wants to dissolve the dream so that the kids can be set free, because he doesn't wish to be the reason why such young people are robbed from their futures. And I think this is the sensible thing a man at his age would do. I try to put myself in his shoes, and I think I would have done the same. But what I liked the most in this scene wasn't, don't get me wrong, the whole thing with the old man, it was sad. But what I really liked the most was Teresa's response when she tells her, no, you shouldn't give up on this dream. Because she believes that in his case, remaining in the dream is the best solution. He shouldn't wake up. And at that point I was like, whoa, I really thought they will go with this old sacrificing for the young trope that we've seen plenty of times. But then Teresa comes, no, you know what, keep the dream, this is the best for you. And while you do that, when you see other youngsters coming in, tell them that it's a dream and point them out. And that was really, really awesome to see. And I think after this, Teresa POVs ends, and yes, we see the spiritual Adam dissolving. Oh boy, here's the dot discussion between two Kaslanas, and here is when Kevin mentions the Plato's cave allegory from Mobius, and he remarks that for humanity, those shadows cast on the wall, right, are everything, and for him as well, and we don't want to look past them, and we are content being chained in the cave and keep watching them. And he also adds that while humans can dream only when they sleep, I thought that this was interesting. Honkai beasts can only think in dreams. That's the only existence for them. And basically, this is where it reveals that Project Chimera integrated the dreams of all the Honkai beasts inside his shadow, basically. But Randall argues that Fuhua already left the cave, and Kevin can too. He can be part of this new world. He can be integrated in the new society. But and interestingly enough, Kevin feels like integrating in the new era is not the hard part, but the hard part for him is casting everything he's ever done aside, right? And he, at some point, if I remember correctly, he compares with Otto. He says that they both are coffin makers. Basically, they both come up with a plan that decided the fate of humanity could endanger them, right? Honkai's writing really respected healthy egotism while still bringing altruistic message. I agree. So, no matter what Kevin thinks, and this is another part I really liked, Durandal said that his actions influenced the people of this era. And even if he doesn't consider himself as part of the new era, he still plays a part. He is already part of the new era because, like it or not, the actions he's done made an influence of them, right? And after that we have the whole declaration from Kevin that we will do our best to kill each other, that I thought was really funny, which is very interesting because in Japanese he says that we will do our best to defeat our enemies. He doesn't say absolutely nothing about killing each other, but they for some reason decided to translate it as that. And then Randall gives him his final recognition from his ancestors. She says that even he knew that it was meaningless. She's thankful that she gave them this opportunity to defy them, because she realizes that if Kevin wants, he can basically wipe everyone out, but he doesn't do this because he wants to let them have this opportunity to surpass him, to fly higher than him. Okay, the discussion ends, and this is when Rita reports that the Honkai beasts from Project Chimera restored the spiritual Adam. So basically, this means that even if their plan of waking up the people inside the dream is successful, it's still not enough because Project Chimera can just replenish the dreams. So this means RIP plan. But at the end, Rita comes up with another plan that gets explained a bit later. This is the moment when Sushan goes to tell Senti what's happening and ask for her help. We can get past this because the next interesting bit is this one. Back in the spiritual Adam, when Kevin is inside a dream of the Elysian realm, and it's very funny to see him slowly coming to the realization that all the people that could dream about TR are not in the dream, right? So this must mean that this is in fact his dream. And we see various Honkai beasts appear before him that he absorbs inside his shadow. And it's very interesting to see the dreams of these Honkai beasts, because this basically confirms that Honkai has visited many other planets, many other worlds, right, before coming here. And they describe them as desolate places, and this is a part I still didn't fully understood. I don't know if he's referring to the fact that those planets were desolated to begin with, or got in that state because of the influence of the Honkai. Why does the spiritual Adam look like that? I don't know. I think they just come up with a goofy design, partially inspired by Evangelion. I don't think there's a specific reason. They tried to make this grotesque, Lovecraftian creature. And this is when Senti comes in, right? Who was controlling those Honkai. She reveals that she was controlling those Honkai beasts to basically attack the source of the Chimera. And this is when Kevin reveals that Honkai beasts are in essence the organs of the cocoon of finality through which it perceived reality. And this was kind of foreshadowed, if you remember chapter 16, when Raven hacked into one of the Honkai beasts, basically, and shared their senses, entered their network. Okay. This is them again talking about the plan to take... This is where Rita reveals the plan that they want to take a part of the Chimera Shadow from Kevin. And what if Honkai doesn't look like that, only looks like that in the human eyes, like before Kevin mentioned that for Dinosaur, finality is meteor. I think in that context, basically finality refers to an ending, right? Finality was a meteor for the dinosaurs because that was their ending. And I fully agree with the fact that as we learn in this part at the end, the cocoon of finality is a mirror, it's a reflection. I truly believe that Honkai looks differently based on every world it corrupts or it plants itself into. It basically reflects that world, right? That it reflects the dreams, the thoughts, the subconscious of the people living in it. Homo left the green-colored earth reminds me of the Shadow Hour of Persona 3. I haven't played Persona 3, so I have no idea what you're talking about. I think that this act did a good job portraying Kevin as a complex character, from him telling Prometheus that he was also young when he started fighting Honkai, to the respect he shows to the main cast. Yeah, I agree. I think we needed all this focus on Kevin in this chapter, and I think he did a good job expanding on his character. So we're back at the fight where Senti pops off. I mean, this was I really like this scene. This was awesome, seeing Senti just going ham. They both upping each other. But I'm not gonna waste too much time on it because nothing important happens. What's fascinating is how Senti managed to transfer her consciousness into Fengguan Down, basically becoming she's not tied to Fu Hua's or her core anymore. She basically became a sentient divine key, right? And I really like when Kevin destroyed the whole mindscape, she wasn't done. There was no way for him to truly get rid of her. I mean, actually, if he wanted to, he could have killed her instantly, but again, he was holding back. He wanted to see what happens. He wanted to give them opportunities. And in this final part, I think it's here when Kevin mentions that she basically borrows the strength from the human dreams, right? And if she does this for too long, basically the dreams will overtake Fu Hua's memories and change Senti into someone completely different. And I like the fact that she was like, I don't care, because for her this is not a price to pay, this is an affirmation of her own will. Because the thing with Senti was that he lacked her own identity, right? For the most part of her arc, she had this battle with identity. She thought that she was Fu Hua. Then the people around her, Kiana and Bronya, refused that identity and said that she's the Herrscher of Sentience. Then she had to accept the fact that she's the Herrscher of Sentience. But even then, even when she accepted that she is not Fu Hua, she is the Herrscher of Sentience, she still gets compared to Fu Hua. Even in this fight, Kevin mentions a couple of times that the actions she has done is because of Fu Hua's memories. And even in chapter 32, if you remember, she had this strange respect for Dr. May, which didn't come from her, come from Fu Hua's memories. And this was kind of an affirmation of her own identity. She knows that this might completely change her, but she does this because she wants to do this. She doesn't do this because of Fu Hua or because of anyone. And that's what made this scene so powerful. Okay, moving on. We see that even so she still struggles, and we have Durandal joining the fight to stall Kevin, because this whole thing was just a big stall fest for Fu Hua to make her appearance like a true Giga Chad and use the Holy Blade Durandal in her active Honkai reaction form to slash a part of Kevin's Chimera's shadow, right? And then we see the shadow appearing in form of this torch in Fu Hua's hand. And after that we have the whole flashback with Fu Hua using her active Honkai reaction and going berserk. Then she attacked Kevin, but she was defeated. But a notable thing here is the fact that Kevin literally had to go in his active Honkai reaction to stop her. And this shows how strong Fu Hua is in that form, right? And then we have Dr. May revealing that because of Swara, she cannot control her active Honkai reaction, and she will be driven by a strong desire to destroy Honkai. and she tells her that she shouldn't ever use this power in the future unless all the other mantises are dead and she's the only person left alive. Why is this? Because mantises are born from Honkai, right? And she will automatically see her comrades as her targets because they have the power, their powers from Honkai. But if that happens, yes, and after everyone is dead and no Honkai is left around, she will see herself as a target. And if that happens, because of Garuda's healing abilities, she will basically enter a perpetual loop in which she will attack herself and heal at the same time, trapping her in a hell, in a never-ending hell. Homolabs, do you agree that Kevin is the strongest after real finality in the Honkai universe? What do you think? I think that... Okay. I will tell you something. I do not like to do power scaling in Honkai. Because from my perspective, in Honkai, the person who the story needs to win will always win. I mean, sure, there is a sense of power scaling, right? I mean, a old man will never able to beat a Herrscher, no matter how the story tries to push that or focus on that. But on these close calls, when you have two really powerful entities or factions, I don't think that Honkai has a real power scaling. The person that story who the story needs to win is always the person who the story wants to win, right? In this case, I think that Act 2 will come out next week, right? And I truly believe that they will be able to surpass Kevin. They will be able to defeat Kevin. And if you think about it from a power scaling perspective, I would say that Kevin is a bit stronger than them, but I think they will be victorious because the whole story sets this up. And this is why I always say that power scaling in Honkai doesn't work, because at the end of the day, the person that needs to win, it will always win to move the story forward. And at the end of the day, it's not about who's stronger for me in Honkai. I don't see this story about who's stronger. I see this story about conviction, about character development, about putting forward a message, right? And that's what's important here. And that's what will always win, not the strongest person. Okay, so now we're back at Garuda Fuhua, right? And since we know that her Swara was broken 500 years ago when she was killed by her disciples, she now can utilize that power without losing herself. And she reveals, after holding the torch, which is a small portion of the shadow that was under Kevin and which holds a part of the authority of finality, she reveals that Kevin was actually paying a very, very a very high price for controlling it, right? Because the situation Kevin is in right now is no different from Fuhua back then when she first activated her active Honkai reaction. Because Kevin is not the actual Herrscher of finality, he stole the power. So the authority affects him as it would affect a normal human being. He's not a Herrscher that is built to handle that power, and because of that the authority kills him basically at every moment, it attacks him. But because his Chimera also has Garuda's genes that are in Fuhua, and Fuhua says that they are even more potent in Kevin, he is healed constantly. So, in other words, he endures an incredible amount of pain and suffering to keep the authority finality, and Fuhua even comments that she is impressed that he is able to hold any semblance of human sanity. And even points out that if she wasn't in her Honkai in her active Honkai reaction form, she would have died instantly. And after that, she reveals that they plan to use this torch to who has the authority of finality in it, to reverse locate the cocoon of finality. Is finality and Hersher of the End the same thing? Yes, they are the same thing. And after that we move to Teresa and Cele. If the cocoon of finality just resets the time, how Kevin and the others remained in this era? And how the cities like the Deep also remained? To be fair, they never truly explain that, right? We know that we know about Project Sanctuary, right? Which was this project to build this bunker a couple of kilometers underground, where they would take refuge after the Hersher of Finality descends. And we also know that the cryopods are the Great Hibernation, which are basically the fifth divine key. So I would assume that this all played a role, and apparently, to make any sense of it, I think that the authority of finality only affected Earth on a surface level. And it seems that things like the Deep, that are deep under the sea, or the Sanctuary, which was deep underground, can resist it and not be affected by it. I mean, that's the only way I can make any sense of it. Do you think there's a chance for Einstein and Tesla to grow up just like Terry? I don't know, because their situation is different, and I don't think that Einstein and Tesla need to grow up. From what I think, they were already grown when this happened to them, but they got in the situation in a different manner, right? Because Teresa was born after Ado tried to infuse one of Callan's clone with Vishnu's genes, and we know that Einstein and Tesla are like that because of the Abyss flower. So I think it's possible, but I don't think it will happen. Thank you for subscribing, Esla. Okay. Okay, Teresa and Cele, right? And we see here Teresa prepares for the worst case scenario, to devour the dreams of the people that won't awaken with Vishnu's powers. And after that, Senti just throws the torch at them, which was very funny. She was like, hey, catch! And we see Teresa in pain after holding it, right? And Honkai beasts are attracted to it and are attacking them, so they must destroy them fast, or else the flames will be filled with their dreams. And if that happens, the flame would extinguish and they won't be able to locate the cocoon anymore. So Teresa wants Cele to use Cele's ability to attract dreamlands to gather a large amount of dreams away from the Honkai beasts, and once those dreams won't be in her way, she can go all out and destroy all the Honkai beasts, right? She removes all her limiters on her Blood Knight Moonlight battlesuit. And after a series of flashbacks that again go over her past and how she felt alienated from the world, and until she met Cecilia and saw her perspective, which I really liked. And basically what happens here is Teresa goes undergoes her own active Honkai reaction, letting Vishnu genes fully take over. And she thinks that this process will change her forever and transform her into some kind of monster, right? She even wonders if others will recognize her after that. But after she wakes up and opens his eyes, she sees that she doesn't have claws, doesn't have any wings or any animalistic feature, and her body was pretty normal, with the sole exception that she started to grow, to age. Weren't they underground because they wait for the Honkai radiation on the surface gun? That's what I remember. Yeah, I remember them saying that as well. But initially I assumed that the reason why they weren't affected was because of the fifth divine key, right? But then why wasn't the deep affected, right? So I would also assume that being deep under the ocean or deep underground somehow protects you. She did wish to age, yes. It's the planet directory, some sort of space or universe outside the influence of the imaginary theory. It is located somewhere. The planet directory is basically the mainnet of Project Stigma. Is the source. In its essence, it's still an imaginary space, so I don't think it's separate from the imaginary tree. It's just the main hub of Project Stigma. And after that, this part is very, very interesting. We have here that tells Cell about Lambda, right? And that she can help them. And then we move perspective to Lambda, who is still in the chaotic dreamland that Grey Serpent put her into in chapter 34. And here we observe this blurred figure that it seems to be Cell, right? And because we know that Lambda can basically dream of the future, we can assume that this is a future version of Cell that will most likely come out in part 1.5 or part 2 or sometimes in the future. And after this, the whole all walls are broken, right? Because this is the moment when Lambda recognizes our existence as players in the story. And basically what happens, we as the players guide her. But what I want to focus on is the discussion at the end. Because it comes a bit out of the left field, right? The fact that we as the players are part of the Honkai universe was always teased. It's not a new concept from Honkai to tackle. Again, we had that. We had the hint of higher dimensional beings in the A visual novel with the Bill Franklin bill. Basically, people think that's an 11th dimensional being, which basically are omniscient observers, right? And they are canon to the story. And we see them doing this even with other games. Even in Star Rail, I'm not gonna say when or how, but even in Star Rail at some point they are directly addressing the player. Hoyo really likes to do this. And not the player avatar, the player, you, behind the screen. There were hints, even if in the Captain verse, when they talked about what is the captain. They have, I think it was Fallen Rosemary who said that basically the captain is a amalgamation of different consciousness that can split up, right? Referring to the captain is all of us. But I can definitely see why this kind of thing doesn't sit well with certain people, right? I can totally see why some people don't like to self-insert themselves in the story or be part of the story, because it feels cheap, and to some extent it is, I agree. So I think it all depends on how serious the players are about this. It's a hit or miss situation, right? I remember May being surprised when she called Elisa misping. Yes, that's another good example. When we, as a higher dimensional being, implanted a suggestion in her mind. Will Kiana return on once she controls her finality power? That will be most likely answered in the future act, and I prefer to talk about it after we know more. I think next week. If we, the player, were acknowledged many times through the story, I'd understand it. But with the way it's presented here, it's totally out of nowhere. It feels a bit forced. I can see that perspective, yes. It's not that we were not acknowledged. We were, but not in the main story so much. And I agree that they went from 0 to 100 really quick. Really quick. I prefer if Captain Verse has nothing to do with the main story. I still think it doesn't have anything to do with the main story, just keep it in the events. I mean, it has to do with the main story in the sense that it's canon to the Captain Verse is canon to the multiverse. Not even canon is not the right word. They both happen in the same universe, right? But they don't really interact with each other. They are separate stories, but they exist in the same confinement of the Honkai universe, of the greater Honkai universe. And we have here, basically, Taishan acknowledges that we are a higher dimensional being it's watching them, and because her existence is different, she can sense us, and she asks if we are time. She says that the moment she was born, she witnessed countless different parallel futures, and these are basically parallel version of each captain's different gameplay, right? When a player joins the game, a new cycle for her to see is created. And us, like her, are observers of the story. And she refers to us as the beginning and the end of time, the source of all the stories. And there's a lot much here, but I will not go into detail right now. As I said, I have a whole video on this topic that will present it in a more organized and easy to understand manner. That's also a very quantum mechanics related thing where simply observing something changes its nature. Yes. And after this, they finally locate the cocoon of finality. It is even said, after countless samsaras, the humans have found the cocoon's whereabouts for the first time. So they decide to go on with the plan to make Kiana an artificial Hirsch of finality at this point yet. Because when she becomes, she's not an artificial. I talked about it in the beginning of the stream. So, Bronya, May and Senti shared their authorities with Kiana. And at this point, after Senti gets teleported there, she basically realizes that the authority of origin is in fact the power to bring all the Hirscher authorities together. And Senti points out that as they speak, the other authorities are already gathering there. So basically she's a authority magnet, right? And after that they are transported to the station. And here is, I found it funny because Kiana points out that everything is going too smoothly, and I saw a lot of players complaining about the fact that everything went too smoothly, that she got hold of the authority very easily. And they even comment on that, which means that the writers are aware, right? Because Brone points out that they didn't understand the true nature of the Herschers after all. And this brought up another interesting discussion, and I want to note that this is my personal interpretation, but it seems that Herrscher powers respond to human wishes. So if the wishes are sincere, they'll give the user the power to move forward, right? But if the wishes are evil in nature, it will enable them to bring out destruction. And that's why the Herrscher of Origin has the power to bring up all these wishes together and create a miracle. And also Kiana calls it the authority of romance at some point. And after that, Kiana is the only one that remains, and this is the moment when the cocoon recognizes Kiana as the actual Herrscher of Finality, and the rest of the authorities come to her, and we have this. She goes through each stage of her journey. We have the cutscene, and after the cutscene, we are finally facing the cocoon of Finality. And it's very interesting how it's portrayed like this big eyeball that is moving around, that is half in this dimension, half in another, tearing through space. And we see that it takes the form of Kiana, very, very similar with the Wheel of Honkai. And it doesn't speak directly, but it can place thoughts in their head. And this is, again, very interesting, showcasing how higher dimensional beings communicate, right? They cannot talk to you directly. They will place thoughts in their head, the same way we did with May. Then when we, in the Elysian realm, when the player basically put the thought of Miss Pingelf in her head. Or we did with I Lambda to guide her to get out of the space. Why did the cocoon choose Kiana? Because she has all the other Herrscher authorities? Not really. She chose Kiana because Kiana was willing to face herself. And she mentions that this is the prerequisite to obtain finality. To look into a mirror and face yourself, accept who you are, and have the power to assimilate that and move forward. Yeah, I mean, if you compare how Kevin got the power, it's bad. Some people will hate it because but they have too much power of friendship and blood. I mean, Neko, I see where you're coming from. At the end of the day, stories are different from everybody, and I think that each person seeks something different in a story, and some things will bother them while others don't. I like Honkai because I don't see it as a... I notice that a lot of the people in the community see Honkai as a shonen anime, where they want fights, they want this big explosion, this epic moment, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think that's the kind of game the developers want to make. To me, Honkai is more about... it's a discourse on how to handle life, how to take the good that was passed down to you and move forward, how to overcome obstacles and change as a person. And that's what attracted me to Honkai, that's what I like about this story, and that's what I seek. I wonder why they put sentient score among the other dead Herschers while scientists literally outside and assimilated her authority. I mean, if you refer to the cutscene when they walked, there wasn't really a rule that they put dead Hersher or Herschers that are alive. If you remember, she even went through Nagazora, where May became the Hersher of Thunder, and she got her authority right before that. So it was more so like a retracing the journey rather than pointing dead Herschers out. Okay, so we see the cocoon that asks a couple of questions in their minds. And this is where we see this philosophy in Kiana's words that is very interesting for me, that kindness is passed down from one another, and even if we don't feel it, someone's kindness touch us through somebody else that receive it at some point, and it creates this big cycle where people inspire each other and pass down their kindness, which was what helped her and shaped her into being who she is today. This is why she is here today. This is why she can stand in front of the cocoon of finality and accept the authority of finality. And this is why she could face this mirror, right? Because the cocoon is a reflection of humanity in the end. If we refuse to face ourselves, we are plagued with negative feelings. So this is reflected in the Herschers being bent on destruction, how they were in the previous era. But if we embrace the goodness and spread love, the cocoon will reflect it and allow humanity to take control of its powers. Basically, this is the discourse here. And with that, she finally has the authority, and as she says, they are on the same footing as Kevin. And even though Kevin's method was close to stealing, the cocoon still recognized him, and he wants to see who will be victorious between them. And after that, we have the whole Ai-chan story with the boy that wanted to be a writer, the girl that wanted to be a protagonist, with the cave, the dragon. I think that I really didn't understand what this was meant to be. I think it's a reflection of the developers' process of making the story. Maybe the cave is the game, the dragon is the Honkai. I really don't know. So yeah, that's about it. This was the recap, a very short recap. It took us a lot of time. We've been streaming for 2 hours, right? I would say it's alright. It went better than I expected. I don't understand it either. I hope that it will somehow link with Act 2. And I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I always look at the CN story. I know what's gonna happen in Act 2, right? I know what's gonna happen in Act 2 and Act 3. I don't fully understand it because I don't have the context. I just have a very, very, very general idea, and that's why I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to express my thoughts and feelings about it, because most likely I will change my mind once I play it and I have full context. Okay, I think we can go back to the game. So, this was the story recap. Now, any questions? Cave game, Dragon Honkai, philosopher, developers, players, people in the cave. I saw it almost the same, but I associated the players with the characters. I'm sorry, the people in the cave with the characters. Because she says at some point that the boy thought that her journey would be too easy, so she placed a dragon there. So I saw it as humanity inside the game. The writer thought that their journey would be too easy, so they placed the Honkai to be an obstacle for them to leave the cave. I think that the last part is about Kiana's reflection on how she managed to go through all the obstacles and reaching the end. Yeah, I see that. I see that as a valid interpretation. I deleted every social media that shows Honkai spoiler because I gotta go. Yeah, I don't know how you guys do it. Everybody that manages to avoid all the spoilers, you're crazy, man. I wouldn't be able. And I somehow, basically, I'm forced to do this because I always have video ideas that depend on the latest parts of the story, right? So if I make a video and we have more information already out in the Chinese server, I have to know what's happening, because I can make a video and a week after, when the story comes out, that video is totally wrong and irrelevant. So I'm kind of forced to do that. But yeah. You pretty much cannot interact with the community if you want to stay spoiler free. It kind of blows. Yeah, I agree. If you want to interact with the community in any shape, way or form on any social media, you can't stay spoiler free. And it's a very hard thing because they are technically not leaks, right? So it's this great area where you always can argue that they are not leaks. It's not my problem if you don't want to see them. Like, there are people and people, and this line between what's acceptable to show, what's not, is different for everybody, right? So if Project Sigma succeeded, Stigma Awakened and Form can live without worry about the Honkai, but how long can Kevin hold the Finality power? Well, Kevin, we don't know. He said that he will hold it until the end of the planet, so basically he implies that he will hold it until the end of times. And what happens after Kevin failed? Will the Honkai come back from the imaginary tree? Technically, yes, the Honkai will be free after that, because he says it in the beginning of the chapter that it's a temporary solution. He doesn't get rid of the Honkai, he basically imprisoned Honkai in himself to create that net, that web of ideas. The Cocoon acknowledged both Kevin and Kiana, means it thinks both of them can make humanity evolve. I think the Cocoon, it's okay with either way, because to me it seemed more like, almost like it was entertaining for him to watch this, or like, I don't know, you watch a fight on TV, yeah, you want to see who's going to win. It's like watching Sunday morning WWE wrestling. So I don't think it matters for the Cocoon if it's Kiana's way or if it's Kevin's way. I wonder what happened to Callan. Well, in our world, Callan is still dead, but Ado managed to create a new branch on the imaginary tree where she is alive. And we don't know what happened to her. I remember when, I think in chapter 29, when it came out in CN, and saw someone say that Sakura 100% killed Elysia. I never trusted people's interpretation on the CN chapter since LOL. Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation going around, and it's to the point where I'm not even trying to correct it, right? Because it only upsets people. But every time a new chapter comes out, so much out of context information, so much misinformation. That's why I always say, don't judge it before you play it. Because, and I'm guilty of this myself. I remember it was with chapter 25, when it first came out in CN. A lot of global players were complaining about the fact that they they didn't give Sirin the proper time for ending. They rushed it. It wasn't good. And I saw the act on YouTube, right? I read a couple of translation, and I had the same feeling. And I was, oh man, I hope they would have done this better. I was a bit disappointed. Not to the point where I game bad or anything, but I was a bit disappointed, right? And when I played the chapter for myself, my whole perspective changed. I even told myself I was an idiot, and from this moment onwards I will never trust anything that comes out in China first. Sure, I'll look at it to get a general idea, but until I play the game myself, I will not put out a judgment, because it happened to me and it changed my perspective. I changed my perspective not once, but many times after I played the chapter for myself. But at the end of the day, he wants to fail. That's why he gives them so much chance. Yes, he wants to fly because he wishes that somebody will come up and fly higher. He literally became the other type of hero that the philosopher mentioned, a hero that wants his ideals to be trampled by another hero. I remember a lot of misinformation regarding Dr. Main during chapter 31 EX launch in CN. I mean, that chapter is so complicated with so much science stuff, so much quantum physics, so much information. The majority of people didn't understand that chapter after they played it in English. I can't imagine taking bits of information in Chinese from that chapter and try to make sense of them. To be honest, I thought Himeko in Honkai Star Rail was the product of Kian abusing her authority of finality. I don't think so. So Kevin didn't kill Elysia. This is complicated. It's never explicitly said that he did, but it's very much implied that he did. So take it however you want. I always thought both versions, because the thing about ER is they don't want to tell you things, right? They imply a lot of things. So you have that match between Kevin and between Elysia and May, that it's a reflection of her fight with Kevin, but they never go into details. What was that fight about? Was that the fight that killed Elysia? Was that a mock battle like with May and Elysia, and after that Elysia just disappeared and returned to the cocoon of finality? We don't know. So you can take it however you like. Who did then? The other version is that she basically just dissolved, returned, because she's a parallel to Jesus Christ, right? And we know that after 40 days, Jesus basically ascended to heavens, right? And Elysia is meant to parallel that. Nobody killed her. She basically ascended back to the heavens, which is the cocoon of finality. I don't understand about the other type of hero. The example they chose was Icarus, but that are some other examples. Basically, that other type of hero refers to, put it in a simple perspective, to people that do evil for the sake of good. Do evil with good intentions. Are those type of heroes that are forced to take tough decisions that they don't want to take, but are forced to due to their circumstances, and they want somebody else to come with a better solution. They wish to be saved. I think that's the best way to look at that. I hope they release like a Chronicles or an event that involves the other universe canon, because I definitely want to see what happens. Yeah, me too, I would like to see that. Bruh, I still don't understand what the cocoon is. Honestly, me neither. And I made a video about it. It's a very complicated topic. But it's funny because in Honkai Star Rail, Welt mentions this world and mentions Honkai. And she tells us that Honkai is not the eons. But after that, he makes a comparison saying that even a servant of an eon is capable of destroying an entire galaxy, right? Which is interesting that you can, with that you can make the connection that yes, Honkai, the Cocoon of Finality, is not Terminus, right, the Eon of Finality, but it may be born from Terminus, it may be an emanator, it may be a fraction of his powers, and I think that people are very, very eager to dismiss this connection between Honkai and Terminus, between Honkai and Eons. Right, Honkai itself is not Terminus, but I think it comes from Terminus, if it makes sense. I've seen some people conflate the Cocoon of Finality with the imaginary tree, which I'm pretty sure it's not correct, lol. I think the Cocoon of Finality is part of the imaginary, because you can't define the imaginary tree. Everything is the imaginary tree. If you go with this player insert and that we are 11th dimensional beings that are watching the Honkai verse, our own room is the imaginary tree. So saying that it's not part of the imaginary tree, it's everything. The only separate dimension from the imaginary tree that we know for now is the Sea of Quanta. So there are two possibilities. If it's not in the Sea of Quanta, it's in the imaginary tree. The real imaginary tree is the friends we made along the way. True. Also, they are called heroes because them doing what they did allows them first to be the heroes to rise. There's a literal term for this, but I forgot. Maybe anti-hero? Hopefully they start explaining and confirming instead of implying and using analogies. Yeah, I feel you. It would make my job so much easier. The cocoon seems very familiar to the sky people in the way it invades other planets. Is Honkai actually natural? I mean, it depends on how you see natural. I think that it is natural in the sense it's a force that exists in the imaginary tree. It's a natural occurrence in the imaginary tree. But it may come from somewhere, it may have a creator. We know that there are beings that are above the Honkai. So from our perspective, yes, it's something natural, but I imagine that from a higher being's perspective, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a creation for them. Does the train station means that the whole story and both of the end of the train station is Hersher of Origin and Hersher of Finality? I think that the whole train station symbolizes, yes, the passage of time and the whole story as a complete sequence with a beginning and the end, and also a reference to the Reborn cinematic. Wait, you said that Kevin can hold Finality's power till the end of planet. That's crazy. I mean, that's what he said. I don't know if he can. Is there only one cocoon of Finality, or does every branch on the imaginary tree has its own cocoon? We don't know. We don't know. We know that Honkai, we know that the cocoon of Finality, it was confirmed in this chapter that it visited multiple worlds. So I assume that it's the same cocoon that just goes from one world to another. The Star Rail and the Sky people in APHO connected? I mean, they are connected through the Alien Space manga, and Welt refers to the Sky people in Star Rail. But in Star Rail, interestingly enough, they changed the translation. They are not called the Sky people there. They are called the ones above. That's the official English translation. I wanted to ask how Kevin can use the judgment of Shamash without dying, because I thought that using it killed the user, unless it's the Kevin can use it because he has the genes of Parvati, which is a Honkai beast that has the power of ice, right? So he counterattacks the heat that comes from Shamash with that powers. It's balancing out. I wonder how much they have changed their plans, like with Elysia initial case. A lot, trust me, a lot. Again, I really think and hope that they will post the documentary on the official Honkai English channel, and I suggest for people that are interested to go and watch it, because they explain the whole process there, and they mention that in the beginning undertaking this journey was too much for them. They were a small company and making this game was more than they could handle, right? So in the beginning, the story, they even say the story was an afterthought for them. They didn't want to create a great story. They wanted to make sure that the game is playable. That's how hard it was for them at that point. And only after the game was launched, they started to think about the story. So yeah, that explains it very well why the early chapters are so bad. Because they didn't thought about them. It was just, okay, we have to write a story, the game must come out. Okay, let's take this, 2 lines of dialogue, good enough, who cares? And that's what was the whole process, and only after that they started to develop more and more. And they even recognized that when they made DR, Elysian Realm was also something that it was way beyond their capabilities at that time, but they managed to pull it through, and it really turned out quite well. Thanks for subscribing, Neko. Question: is Origin the part of Finality like other Hushra authorities, or is it a separate thing? Hardly anything is known about Origin's powers. It's very complicated, because yes, the game confirms that the authority of Origin also comes from the Cocoon, right? But it seems to be a bit different from the rest of the authorities. So it's a bit vague. To be honest, I don't know. So I think Reborn 2 is the second Divine Key. I think Reborn 2 is not canon, it's just a concept trailer, because I can't fit it in any possible timeline with the information that we know right now about the story. So until they come up with more info that allows me to place it somewhere in that damn timeline, for me Reborn 2 is just a concept trailer. I don't treat it as canon for now. What will your next video be? It will be the recap for chapter 34. When I watched Potato Almanac's video, he said that Well made an anime to fund something. I forgot what it was. Is that anime Reborn? No, I mean, kinda. He made Arahato, right? And Arahato is the mecha that appears in the Reborn animation. And he made that to found anti-entropy. If Kevin actually can jail the Honkai in his body for eternity, then he must suffer the pain of Honkai in his body even... Yes. That's the whole point. That's the tragedy of the character. That's why he says he will have no future, because he will shoulder that pain for as long as he can endure it. Who's Prometheus? I feel like I know the answer, but I'm not too sure. Well, Prometheus is an AI from the previous era, created by Dr. May to predict the battle against the Honkai. There are multiple versions of the AI. For now, we know about number 0, number 16, and number 17. Number 17 was used by Mobius to basically hack the Cocoon of Finality and place a command on it, right? And that command was to repeat the Herschel cycle in the new era, and when Kevin opens the back door, it must give him the authority of Finality. So think about it as an AI, they basically became a program that bind the cocoon of finality to the will of the previous era. Do you think Honkai lore is too much? It's too much more than FGO lore. I honestly know I know a bit of Fate lore, but extremely surface level, so I can make the comparison. Who is Aichan? Aichan Aichan is a plot device and a way to self-insert the player in the game, but at the same time she's not. At the same time she's also being born from a time crystal. It's complicated. I have a video in the works that will go over all the meta stuff with Aichan, but I want to wait for part 1 to end, and after that I will start working on it. What's the backdoor? The backdoor itself, we don't know what it is. We know that Kevin can access it at any time and make the will of Honkai basically give him the power of finality. So going back when Ado sacrificed himself to save Callan, he only saved Callan in a single branch? If yes, then what was the point of that if all other branches Callan still dies? It's basically what Ado did was create a new branch from our branch, from this branch of the imaginary tree. Because here's the thing, Ado had the ability to travel to another if he wanted. I'm sure that he could have found a way to travel to another world and find a Callan alive there, because I'm sure there are worlds where Callan didn't die that day, right? But he didn't want that. He wanted the Callan that he grew up with to be the one that is alive. So what he did, from the main Honkai timeline branch of time, he split a branch from the point when Callan died and created a new timeline. And he achieved his goal because that Callan, that person that he admired and grew up with, was alive basically, even if it's a bit complicated and there are some mind juggling to fully understand it, but in the end he achieved exactly what he wanted, and the Callan that he grew up with came back to life. So is the pseudo-time crystal a universal concept for the whole multiverse? It is a concept in the sense that they can use it anywhere, but basically what pseudo-time crystal stands for is, think about it this way. For us, time is linear, like we have a past, now we live in present, and we move towards the future. Well, for beings like Aichan that live inside a pseudo-time crystal, times is not linear, instead it goes in every possible direction. That's why she doesn't have the same concept of past, present and future like we have. And she basically can dream of every possible outcome of Project Stigma. Will you do a Kevin video? Yes, I will. What do you think about the huge pink thing that appeared during Kiana's transformation? The thing resembles Kiana and Elysia is in because of UPV. Yes, I think that was made intentionally to resemble the authority of finality in the same way how the authority of origin was portrayed. It's more so like an Eva reference from Hoyoverse. Is there any special explanation for Vilvi being able to create way better text than mods? If I remember correctly, Mobius mentioned her invention are way more advanced than anything of their era. Not really, she was just a genius that was born way ahead of her era. Also, what thing that talked to Kiana near the end of Act 1? previous era, Hersher of Finality, Kiana in the past, or the cocoon itself. That was the cocoon itself, because Kiana says that the cocoon is just a mirror, so it reflected her. That's why it took her form. I will just skip the story arc 1 because I already know a lot of lore. I don't need to know small and important details. Oh. So Hoyo just being Eva nerds again. Yes. Yes. So let's say we are currently in branch A. Otto basically made a branch B where Callan lives, but in branch A Callan is still dead. Yes, but you have to understand that branch B is not really separated from branch A. Branch B was created from branch A. So Otto basically deviated the timeline where he wanted to allow Callan to live. Are the authorities of origin and finality two forces of the imaginary tree contradicting each other? I don't think they are forces of the imaginary tree directly. They come from the cocoon of finality, and one represents the beginning of the cycle and the other represents the end of the cycle. In that sense, I guess you could say that they contradict each other, but you could also say that they complement each other. It depends on how you want to look at it. Multiple characters said Hershers today are different from 50,000 years ago. Someone mentioned Hershers had a consciousness when they didn't. Why could that be? I was thinking Origins Authority. Yes, the humans in the current era were allowed to keep their consciousness because Elysia basically sacrificed herself and cut the strings that were binding them to the Honkai. If you remember during these chapters, at some point May says that she feels like she can cut anything, she can sever anything. And this is not the authority of origin, but it's a bonus power. And I think that is a reference to Elysia doing the same. She basically cut the connection of the cocoon with the Hershers, allowing either humans to keep their humanity or even Hershers to develop their own personality, their own person. We have examples. We have Wealth Joyce, we have Senti, who are Hersher personas in essence, but they are not tied to the cocoon's will anymore, so they can become their own person and do what they want, even oppose the cocoon if they want to, like they did. Wait, a branch and a leaf are different. The branch they changed the definition of what is a branch and what is a leaf so many times. At this point, when they say branch or they say leaf, is the same thing. What was Kevin's shadow they cut off? I didn't understand that in the story. Basically, Kevin's shadow was a manifestation of Project Chimera. It was the dreams of all the Honkai beasts that were inside Kevin and held the authority of origin. So what they did is cut that dream of the Honkai beasts to use it to reverse locate the authority of finality, excuse me. Origin was part of the cocoon. How did Elysia keep her humanity? It was done black, but was there any other phenomenon? Where there I see multiple interpretations. First, we have Dr. May in chapter 31 who calls that basically an accident, an accidental symmetry breaking, which means that with an infinite number of cycles, at some point in time, a Hersher like her will be born that will not be controlled, and it was just an accident. But these latest chapters imply that basically Hershers are just reflections of human will. So I don't really think that Elysia being born is 100% an accident. I think she was a reflection of some positive emotions, positive thoughts that existed in the previous era at that point. Isn't Elysia both the Hersher of origin and humanity? The Hersher of human is a name she just took up on itself There's no harsher of human. That's just how she wanted to be called, because she loved humanity. But the authority she had was the authority of origin. Oh. So Lysia was born by an accident. Kinda. I mean, you can see it that way. Okay, we've been streaming for almost 3 hours. I think I will end it here today, because I feel like my back starts to hurt a little. But we will be back next week with part 2. This was my first time streaming, so I was a bit nervous in the beginning, but it got way better by the end. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that it helped you in any way, shape or form understand Chapter 35 Act 1 better, and let me know if you liked it, and we'll do more in the future. For now, I'll see you again next week when we will talk about Chapter 35 Act 2. Okay, see you later, bye bye!